Welcome back to the channel, guys. I got a pretty cool one for you today. We're going to be putting a Ford Performance Whipple kit on my 2024 F150. This is going to be a step-by-step video. I don't know of anybody else that has done a step-by-step video on the Ford Performance kit. There is one other video that I know of the full installation step-by-step. It's by Texas 93 Racing. Check out his channel. Shout out to him. It's the only other person on the internet that has a full, it's 2 parts. I'm gonna spend 2 hours watching the videos, but I had some questions, and so we're gonna be going through step by step on the Ford Performance kit. His is the Stage 2 kit, so that's the only difference between his and mine. But I figured I would put my video out there for anybody that needs any sort of insight on how to do this on one of these trucks. So here you go. We're gonna jump right into it. So first things first that you're gonna want to do is take your Tomahawk out of your Whipple kit, send your file off to Whipple, and get your calibration, your tune, whatever. That's the first thing you're going to want to do. There's a whole instruction manual that comes with this thing on how to do that. Basically, there's a little SD card in there. You plug this up to your OBD port, request your stock file from your truck, and then send that to Whipple via email, or actually off their website, and then they send you back the new tune via email. You just load that up to your SD card with your laptop or your computer, put it back into the Tomahawk, you're ready to go. That's the first thing you need to do. On the Whipple website, it says that this process can take up to 24 hours, so you definitely want to do that first. You don't want to put this supercharger on, then you can't start your truck. Anyway, next thing is you're going to need a case of 5W50. I believe the 24 takes 8 quarts, if I'm not mistaken. I will look up to verify, so don't quote me on that. And an FL500. Other than that, you're going to need some basic tools, torque wrenches. And if you're going to be attempting this, you probably should already have all of this stuff anyway. So, yep. Next thing is we're going to get right into taking apart the truck. So first things first, you're going to want to plug this connector here, if I can even point at it. Right above the rear diff, the back of the fuel tank, right there. I might have to get a second hand in there to really get it, but yeah. Alright, so you literally just push down on the top right there. Might be a little tough with one hand, but as soon as I got the second hand in there, it came right off. Then we're going to start the truck up, let it run until it runs out of fuel, cycle the key a few times, try to start it until it just will not even sputter anymore. So that's next. Alrighty, we're just going to stick the old key in her. It'll run for a second until it runs out, and then we'll have to cycle the key a few times trying to start it until it, see? It'll eventually die. Well, maybe. Go ahead and cut it off because that's not too healthy. Do it another time or two, we should be good. Okay, maybe another time or two. We don't want it to sputter or anything. Just basically trying to get all the fuel pressure out of the fuel rails, so for when we disconnect them, it doesn't spray in our face. Wow, a lot of fuel in there. I think we're getting closer. Not really trying to burn my starter up though. I'll let that starter cool for just a second, and then hopefully it doesn't sputter or anything on this next. Cranking time exceeded. Okay. Cranking time exceeded. We're just gonna hope that that's enough. So here we go. So now that we're hoping and praying that we don't get sprayed in the face with 93 octane, locate the battery on the passenger side of the vehicle, blah, 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 disconnect the negative side of the battery. Boom. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. There we go. It says 10 mil. We're gonna get a 10 mil, loosen that bad boy up, disconnect the battery. We're on to the next step. Alrighty, now that you got your battery disconnected, negative terminal, next step is to drain the coolant from the system. This thing shouldn't be too hot, but I'm going to be a little careful. Yeah, we're good. Boom. Alright, and the petcock is located on, I believe, the passenger side. Probably not going to be able to see it from here, but it's a little red turnstile petcock, and we're going to drain the coolant out. I got brand new coolant, but if you don't have brand new coolant and your truck is as low mileage as mine, you could totally reuse this, but I got brand new stuff because I don't have a clean bucket laying around. So I'm just going to drain it into a dirty bucket, discard it, and yeah, so I'm going to get back to you when I'm going to show you the petcock on the bottom. So here we go. Also, I should say I'm doing this on the floor, so my next step really is to get the front of this on jack stands. I'm going to take the front wheels off. That way I can access it underneath a little bit better, because we do have to later on run some wiring and some plumbing. So that's my next step really. Alrighty guys, so it's actually on the driver's side. You can barely see it right there. It's that, oh, there it goes. That red plug there. I'll try to get it with my fingers, but it's gonna make a heck of a mess. Trusty 45s. 45-degree needle nose pliers did the trick in the process of making a heck of a mess. As you can see here, I got it cracked nice and easy. So I don't want to, you know, obviously make too much of a mess. So it's going to take a minute to drain, but once this gets done draining, we'll be back to the next step. Alrighty, next we're going to remove this upper radiator shroud. It's just held in by a bunch of push pins. Just going to need you one of these handy dandy push pin tools. I'll snap all these out real quick. I think there's a total of 9 for just this piece here. You're going to have to remove these 2. Yeah, not these, but these. So yeah, just go around, get all those bad boys out. and remove this. And once you get those push pins out of there, this thing should just, I have to lift this up a little bit. Have to lift this up a little bit to get it out. But after that, she just comes right off. This is just rubber. This Fox body needs to be painted anyway, so that's the home. Alrighty, so this step, if you have the front camera, so if you had like, I don't know why I was zoomed in so much, but if you have a front camera, the connection will be here, which I do not have, but also your washer connection. I don't know why it's here in the grill, but apparently it's right here. So unplug that bad boy, and then you're gonna have a push pin that holds the wire down there. Remove that guy so you can tuck it behind here, and then we're gonna get to removing the actual grill. So I'll get back to you when I get this removed here. Once you have the washer connection removed and the camera connection removed, if you have the camera, which I'm assuming you're putting this on a single cab and you probably won't have that, but next piece is this filler panel below the grill, which is this piece here, this painted piece here. 2 7mm there and there on each side, and then there's just a bunch of push clips all along the entire front. So just be careful and work slow at it so you don't break this piece, because if you break it, obviously you got to buy a new one and then get it painted. So just be careful, and I'll get back to you as soon as I get this off. We'll try to get a little bit of this on camera, but this thing should just pull off. You might have to use some finesse and be careful with it, but should just pull. There you go, see? Just pull outward. You gotta be careful with it. There we go. And just work it like that all the way along. It's gonna be annoying, but it's how it is. Once you have that filler panel removed, it is a pain, but like I said, if you're just careful and work it all the way, it does just pull off. It is scary, it does make some scary noises, does sound like you're breaking it, but if you're, like, again, if you're careful, you won't. So on to the next step. I believe I'll have to check the manual over here. Let's see. Yep, we'll take the bolts out of the push pin and the push pins out of the grill. It's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 in the grill. 1 there. You can see it. And 1 same size right there. And the grill should just pop out. You're gonna have to work her loose. There may be a plug if you have upgraded to a illuminated emblem. There'll be a plug back there. Otherwise, if you have a single cab like mine, there won't be anything there. So work it loose and it'll pull out just like the front panel did. And if you have a 24, there will also be 2 push pins right by the head, above the headlight, 1 there and 1 over there in the corner. So just remove those, then it'll pull out if you have a 24 plus. So alrighty guys, grill's off. And again, I can't stress enough, be careful with these little push pins around the headlight. Yeah, don't be like me and break one. Every other one came off clean and nice and smooth, but literally the best piece of advice I can have is when you have this grill on here and you have everything out and you're just fighting with the push pins, wiggle it. Just wiggle it. Seriously, just wiggle it and free it up. And somehow that's actually how I managed to get it off. All right, next plan of attack is to remove this air breather here, or intake tube. Goes from the valve cover on the driver's side all the way to the actual air cleaner here. And you'll just have to get something like a little pick or something to pop this clip up, pull it off. Same thing down there. That's your next step, and that's what I'm doing now. So let's get to it. These push pins are super easy. Not push pins, quick connects. All you do is take your thumb and pull out on it like that. Comes right off. But you need to save this one though, because you will be reusing it. So stick it over here on the Fox body to be reused. Alrighty, next step is going to be removing the air box. You should just be able to do this in one piece. The instructions say you can do it in multiple pieces. Probably be easiest to go ahead and move this hose as well. And then we're going to disconnect the throttle body connector, the electrical connector right there with the yellow wire. You just pull that little red tab out and then it should just pop off or pull off. So let's get to that. I'm gonna remove this hose first and get the air box off. Then I'm gonna take the electrical connector off for the throttle body. One bolt there for the air box. And then you should just be able to take the hose clamp off there. There are some push pins in the bottom of this air box that you'll have to pull up on, get out. You could just unsnap the top and leave it the bottom in there and then pull the bottom up by itself, but I'm gonna try to do it all in one piece. So first things first, take that out of there, take this clamp off, we'll get that hose off, and yep, I'll be right back with the next step. Alrighty, for the next step, you're gonna take off these breather hoses, or this PCV hose really. Here, and you can't see it, but right there, they're super easy. See if I can get this on camera. Only got one hand, but almost had it. Just like that, you just push that little tab. I can show you that. Just like that, and it comes right up. Boom. Just like that, super easy. Doesn't say in the instructions if you're going to use this one again, so I'm just going to lay it to the side just in case. Actually, we'll make the top of the car just in case. Remember guys, don't come at me in the comments. This car still has to be painted, so don't worry about it. You're also going to remove the evap solenoid, that gray tube right there with the solenoid on it there. It goes back there. Has the similar style, except you pull this one all the way up. It's like a two-prong, you just pull it up and then it comes off. It's unlocked. Similar to the blue ones, but not quite. Gotta get that off next, and then we're on to the next step. And try to give you guys a better view of the might be able to do it from the back. There you go, you just push it out like that. Comes right up. And there's one in the back right there. It's gonna be a pain to get to. Actually, I can probably just take it off right there. I'll have to read the instructions. Let me read the instructions real quick because we do have to take the intake manifold off. Of course. Yep. So you just take it off, the electrical connector and the connection right there. So, and then we'll just bend that tube out of the way. Don't kink it, but bend it out of the way. So, all right, once you got both ends disconnected, the evap system is actually pushed down on this little tab there. You can see, and it goes all the way through right there. But once you got it all, and the electrical connector there, you're gravy. On to the next step. All right, so it is now time to see if we released all the fuel pressure, and if not, I'm gonna get a face full. So there's one there, there's one on the other side, back there, right there, the tip of my finger. But anyway, it's got the same style push clips, or quick releases. Should just be able to, see if I get this on camera. Of course, I can't do it with one hand. Oh, did I get it? All right. I think I got it. Anyway, here goes nothing. Alright, I single-handedly cannot get this clip out, so I just have to take my word for it, and I'll get the clip off and then pull it off. Alrighty guys, once you get those off, this one is the same style, but it's round, it's not square, the clip I'm talking about. And then you can reach in here, pull these pieces of junk out of there, discard these, you don't need these no more. So, gone. Alrighty, next step, we're going to be removing the fuel injector harness. There's a connector there and a connector there. And also don't forget the fuel pressure sensor. Yep, so these are all the same style. These are the pull tab. You just pull that red tab up and it's free. And this is actually the same thing. You just click that bad boy up like that. And of course, everything's just tight enough that I can't get it off with one hand. So we'll get those off and we'll move on to the next step. All right, guys, so next step is we're gonna remove the 4 bolts from the fuel rail. You can't see that one too. There you go, right there. From the fuel rails, there and there. There's a 10 millimeter. You don't need to remove the fuel rail all the way out yet. Go ahead and take the 8 millimeter bolts. I can't remember how many there is out of the actual intake manifold. I'm gonna have a hard time getting you a video of another one. There you go. Right there. There. But there's a good amount of them. There. I'll go over here to the instructions and I'll tell you how many there are. So 8 of them in the manifold. The ones in the back here are going to be a pain, I can go ahead and tell you. But yeah, so start by taking the fuel rail bolts loose. You can go ahead and take the bolts out. Don't take the fuel rails off yet. We can take the manifold and the fuel rails out as one assembly. We already got the electrical unplugged. So yep, that's the next step. Alrighty guys, now it's actually time to remove the intake manifold. You're going to have to, there's 5 push pins back here. There's no bolts, but 5 push pins and the sensor, map sensor down here that you're going to have to feel around and get out. So the way I'm going to approach it is I'm going to try to feel around and get this sensor unplugged first, and then I'm going to actually pull the fuel rail with the injectors out. That way I can kind of get some more room to get these push pins out. And you may have to lift up on the intake, kind of pull it out a little bit to try to get your hand back there with your push pin tool, wherever mine is. There it is, to get those out. But that is your next step. So all the bolts should be out of the intake manifold now, or they shouldn't be out because they're captive. All these bolts are captive. The only bolts you can actually take out are the fuel rail. So they're actually really long and they go into the cylinder head. There they are laying up on the cowl there. But I've already removed mine. So I'm going to lift the fuel rail out of the way with all the injectors and then hopefully pull the intake forward a little bit so I can get those push pins out of there. It's going to be tight. It's hard. It's not fun. Not fun. This is one of the toughest parts other than actually setting the heavy thing in there. So take your time. Try not to break anything, especially any of these electrical connectors. If your truck is brand new, some of this stuff will actually come off pretty easy, or I shouldn't say easy, but you know, easier. So yep, that's it. So next clip you're going to see, I should have this intake manifold out. So with the fuel rail out of the way, you should have a lot more room to get your hand back there for those push pins. But your intake manifold should be extremely loose. Yeah, so you can actually pull it up and twist it. Not, you know, be careful because you still have an electrical sensor back there that you have to unplug. But you can manipulate it a little bit this way with the fuel injectors out of the way. The book doesn't say to do this. Technically, you should take all this out in one piece, but I think this is easier. So I'm adding this to one of my steps, and I'm pretty sure Texas 93 Racing did the same thing. I might have messed up his channel name there, but shout out to him again. Oh, just a fair warning, those are a pain in the butt to get to. So there's your map sensor you got to unplug. There's all the push pins that I was talking about that you have to take loose. And they are a pain in the butt to get to, let me tell you. The sensor, you can feel around, find it, boom, it's off. But these, to get your tool in there to, whew, fair warning, it is a pain in the butt. But intake manifold is off, and we're on to the next step. Whew. Next step, we're going to take these harnesses off the injectors, and they're just see that push, unclip it by pulling it down or whatever. Boom, boom, boom. Alright, so this is the passenger side, this is the driver's side because it's upside down. You should just be able to, I don't know if I'll be able to do this again with one hand, but forgot to mention, goes on this side, that there are little push pins that hold the injector and the plug to the fuel rail. So keep that in mind. Again, don't mix them up, but yep, fixing to take this side off. And then we are ready for the next step. Alrighty, so the book says to remove the stock injectors from the fuel rail and clean the O-rings and then install them back on the stock injectors. We're not reusing the stock fuel rail, but I'm going to wait to clean the O-rings until I'm actually ready to install them into the Whipple fuel rails. We've already got the harness off of the stock fuel rail, so go ahead and skip that one. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next one, which is to remove the water outlet housing, this heater hose here, this heater hose or whatever that is, and same thing there, heater hose there with the quick connect. So we'll move those two, this one, take off this water housing. I've already removed the overflow tube there, it's actually laying right there. So you're going to want to remove this clamp here. I've already moved mine down. Then we'll move to taking these off, 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll unbolt the water outlet housing there, or inlet housing there. It's just 2 8mm bolts for the 24 and up. I think the previous gen was 10mm. But so yeah, we're gonna get that off and then move on to the next step. Alrighty, so in the kit, or in the book, they don't just tell you that you need to take it off there at that big connection, but you have to, and we have to replace this black extension tube there with that 8mm bolt with the one supplied in the Whipple kit. I'll go over to the book here in a second. I just have the housing and the connector that I took off there, and it's literally just a little spring clip that you pull out of one side and it comes right off of that. So we are going to need this gasket in here, so I just have mine sitting there. Be careful with it. Just trying to get it folded out of the way. Right, there we go. On to the next step. I guess you gotta find that supplied Whipple piece, which looks like that there with the hold down bracket. So yeah, we're gonna remove that, install this. So I'll be back once I find these parts. Alrighty, so once you get that water outlet out, you're gonna keep this factory bolt here because you're gonna reuse it for this new one that I have dug out. There's the bracket and there's the bolt. So you see this little notch right there? If my camera will focus. This bracket is also notched, and it will key this in the correct orientation. So I'll go over that when I get it on there. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and get that installed, and you want to torque that to 89 inch-pounds. All right, so I'll get back to you after I get that done. Also, don't forget to lube up your O-ring with some sort of lube. All these O-rings in this, by the way, I'm using Stay Lube Super White. Next, once you get the new water tube there installed, you can see how it's keyed there with the bracket. That bolt is 89 inch-pounds if you didn't read your instructions. And then you can go ahead and hook the hoses back up, all the factory hoses back up. But I think I'm actually gonna do the water neck first, just because I think it would be a little easier to get in there to do that first and then put all the hoses on. So that's what I'm doing next. Transfer stock O-ring from stock water neck to new water neck. Clean O-ring as needed. Apply pipe sealant to threads of 1/8 inch MPT and 5/16 45-degree fitting. You can see the 45-degree fitting there that they supply. So yeah, we're gonna get at that. Rotate the fitting so it faces directly towards the driver's side. Install water neck to motor using stock fasteners, which I got right here. So here's the new water neck. I just have to grab the old water neck wherever I laid it down, transfer the O-ring, and put the fitting in the top with some pipe sealant. Don't forget about some pipe sealant. I got some here. Dude, I don't like to use pipe tape for cooling systems, because if that gets into your water pump or radiator, it's going to clog it up. Alrighty, I got my 45 on there, my O-ring transferred over. Got to slap this bad boy on with the stock hardware, and then we'll put all the hoses back on and go on to the next step. So yeah, I'll see you there. Alright, once you got the water neck on and torqued down to 89 inch-pounds, now I'm going to go ahead and hook up all these hoses, pretty much exactly like you took them off. All the spring clamps and all the quick connects. The only one that's different from all the rest of these is the that main guy there with that spring clamp there. But yeah, everything will just pop back on. The spring clamp guy, you just push it on, then pop the spring back in, and that's it. So yeah, we're moving on to the next step. I'll get back to you after I have all these hoses on. Alrighty, so got this side coolant hoses installed back together. That little thing with the spring clip, this guy, and that guy with the water outlet or inlet, that housing. So I'm gonna wait for these, obviously, because the supercharger is gonna go on this one that goes there. This has to be pointing towards the driver's side, and try to get that clip as close to the head as you possibly can. It's hard, but you know, close as you possibly can. Alrighty, so next we're moving on to the spark plugs, and we're gonna change those out. So I believe these are 8mm bolts holding the coil packs down. So you just want to go through there on each one of those, loosen the bolts on the coil pack, pull the coil pack out, and change the spark plug. So hopefully, if you're doing this job, you've changed spark plugs before, hopefully. So yeah, just this side's going to be a pain in the butt. You might have to unclip those harnesses there, those two, and move them out of the way for those two in the back. But otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. Any other spark plug job, just 1, 2, 3, 4 on both sides. It's a 14mm spark plug, so if you don't have a spark plug socket, you can use the boot if you know that trick. So yeah, I'm gonna get at that, and I'm gonna get this side done, and I'm gonna check back with you. It's honestly not too bad getting these cool packs out of here. One thing I did, I started in the back and I started on the hard side. And I didn't have to unplug any of this, but just for the back two, I just unplugged the actual connection to the coil pack, and I just kind of snaked it out of there, and then I plugged it right back up and laid it down to the side. They're all laying to the side. You can't really see them. There's so many wires in these newer vehicles and stuff, but trust me, they're out of there. You can see them. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this side out, and then I'm gonna do the spark plugs. So I'll be right back. All right, so I got all the coil packs out of the way, and they're dangling in order, of course. So next thing you just need is a handy dandy 14 millimeter and a 8-inch, I believe. Yep, 8-inch extension, and you'll be able to get them right out of there. So like I said, if you don't have a spark plug socket, like I do not, I'm gonna have to use the coil pack boot to actually get the plug out of there. All right, going in with your new plugs here, Ford Performance plugs here, you want to make sure those are gapped at 31 thousandths. And also put some anti-seize on those threads before you put them back in there. Throw your coil packs back in, make sure they're in the correct orientation, make sure you keep them in order, because not all of them are facing the same way. That bolt hole that holds them down, some of them is facing to the left, some of them is facing to the right. Just make sure you keep everything in order. But I will catch you at the next step. I'm gonna throw these in, and I'm gonna put the coil packs on. All right, at this point you should have your plugs and coils back in. Your plugs should be torqued to 128 inch-pounds and your coil packs to 97 inch-pounds. Next step is to remove the recirculating pump bracket from the engine. If you have a single cab, you probably don't have this, because it doesn't look like I even have this. From the looks of this diagram, if you look at that bolt there, and where that pulley is there, where that idler is there, or that's idler, I'm sorry, tensioner is there, it would bolt up right there. So I don't even have that. All right, on to the next step. We're gonna remove this belt and this water pump pulley. So before you release the tensioner and take this belt off, take those three, or loosen those 3 bolts right there. Alrighty, so you want to loosen this tensioner over here by the alternator on the driver's side, not the one that I was pointing at over here on the passenger side where the AC compressor is. That's the AC belt. So you want to do the main drive belt here. This one's just got a bolt on it. This one looks more like a typical tensioner with the 3/8 or 1/2 inch drive socket hole in the back. So we'll have to get a 15 millimeter socket to get on this bad boy in a breaker bar. But anyway, we're gonna get this belt off. I already have these 3 bolts loose on the water pump pulley, and we'll get this bolt off and get back to you. All right, next step is to remove these 3 bolts here. 1, 2, 3, and we got to get out the supplied supercharger pulley bracket. That is the next 2 steps really. So I'm gonna get on with that. It's going to be 1, 2, and 3, and then they also have the supplied Allen head, Allen cap screws there. So yep. And you won't need this one necessarily right now. This one's for the adjuster or the pulley actually itself. So just these 3 for now. And they should be labeled different. Yeah, 3 8 millimeter by 90 is the 3 that you need for the actual mounting. Alrighty, you're gonna find the bag labeled that part number there. Find the bracket. These are the 3 bolts that I need to actually mount it. That's for the pulley itself, and these 2 are for something else on the bracket there. So you're going to need those 3, and we're going to get this installed on the actual engine here. Alrighty, once you get those 3 bolts out of there, you're going to put this bad boy on. This is going to be a 6mm hex. That's the correct orientation of the bolts there. And it's going to go on just like that. That's going to be torqued to 22 foot-pounds. Alrighty, next step is take your fuel pressure sensor out of your factory fuel rail, which is actually on the driver's side. This is just upside down. But you're going to need a 24mm socket. You're going to take that bad boy out of there. And we'll be on to assembling the Whipple fuel rails. Alrighty, for this next step, you're going to need this bag, fuel pressure sensor O-ring, that part number, and this fuel fitting bag. This fuel fitting bag will be in the box with the fuel rails, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to build up the fuel rails. So first things first, I'm going to swap this O-ring, put the new O-ring on here, and get this installed. And it says to install that at 53 inch-pounds and then 25 degrees rotation. It is O-ringed, so really just good and snug, honestly. I will probably put the torque wrench on it and probably try to get the 25-degree rotation if it feels like it will make it, but be careful with this stuff, you know, so don't want to strip anything. Yeah, we're going to get on with that and we'll get this installed. I'll show you what that's going to look like. Then we're going to get on to installing these fittings and I'll show you what they look like installed. Alrighty, this is exactly how they should look. The fuel pressure sensor is going to the driver's side in the rear port there. And then the long barbs, you can see the difference there. You can definitely see the difference here. Go into the side ports there. And the shorter barbs, looks like go into the rear of the fuel rails back here. And then these caps will go in the front. So anyway, I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna build these up. You're gonna need this bag of O-rings. It's got 3 in there, 2-9006. And I'm gonna get going on putting these fittings in the fuel rails. Also, I should mention the 53 inch-pounds, I believe it was. Yeah, for this, that guy there, that sensor, fuel pressure sensor, was enough. I couldn't get the 25 degrees that it says to add the additional 25 degrees. I couldn't get that at all. It was definitely tied at 53, so look out for that. Don't force it if it won't go anymore. Alright guys, your fuel rails should look exactly like this. Shorts in the back, longs in the sides, fuel pressure sensor in the rear of the driver, and the plugs in the front. These are actually quarter hex, and these barbs are 18mm deep. There is no torque specs on these barbs, or these, but basically just as tight as you can get them. You're not going to get much torque on them out here on the bench anyway. But yeah, they stop and they pretty much get really snug pretty easily. So on to the next step, we're going to get the injectors in here and we'll get it built up, put on the actual superchargers. Super simple to get your factory fuel injectors out of your factory rails. You literally just peel back on that clip. I've already almost popped that one off with one hand, but you get the point. Just kind of like every other electrical connector we've been fighting with this whole entire time. Same thing, you just slide them things back, pull them up. And if you haven't already, you should clean your O-rings, because this is the stage 1 kit. This is a little bit different than the Texas 93 Racing's video, because he has the stage 2 kit. His is ported and everything. So I knew there was a little bit of difference, and I wanted to go over the Ford Performance kit. So this is one thing you got to do, and technically you're supposed to do this one, this step earlier in the process, but I don't have a table, as you can see, or a good table. I'm using the Fox body as a table, so I decided to wait till I was assembling the fuel rails to do this portion. So I'm cleaning these. I got these oriented in the correct way via the diagram here. And we got these little clips here that will orient the fuel injectors in the correct position if you get confused, and I'll go over that, how these go in here in a little bit. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna clean these up. The blue ones are the uppers, or the ones that go into the fuel rail, so the one that's closest to the plug. And I really don't think you can mix them up anyway. There is a difference. So in the lowers are the brown ones. So I'm gonna clean those up, wipe those down as best I can, lube them up when I put them back on the fuel injector. Alrighty, so this is what your passenger side should look like upside down. It's actually gonna be facing like that. That clip is actually just gonna slide in from the back. You can see it there. And it orients those injectors in the correct way. I've just been cleaning these O-rings one by one, putting them in the top. As you can see, I haven't put the bottom ones in yet. And don't forget to lube your O-rings. Clean them up one by one and stick them in and put the clip in. So I'll get back to you once I get all these built up, and then we'll move on to the next step, which would actually be putting all this stuff on the actual supercharger itself. So we'll get to it. Alrighty, these are the final products. This is the driver's side upside down. So if I can grab this without dirtying up my O-rings, should sit in there like that. Those clips will orientate the injectors in the correct position. Now, the driver's side, if you don't notice, they're oriented in a different way. It's supposed to be like that per the instructions here. Now we're actually gonna stick them in the supercharger itself, the lower portion, of course. Make sure you lube up these O-rings before you stick them down in the supercharger. You're gonna need this package here with the 4 cap head Allen screws in it. Comes in the box with the fuel rails. Those are actually gonna hold the fuel rail down on the supercharger. So I'm gonna get these installed. Put some blue Loctite on these, don't forget, number 243. And it says to tighten those down to 90 inch-pounds. So we're gonna get at it. I'll be back with you with the next step. We can flip the page now. Alrighty, so make sure when you're putting these in, everything is oriented correctly. This is the passenger side. It's just flipped backwards from where the truck is sitting. But the spout should be pointing from the back. The long barb should be pointing straight out at you. And you can see the 4 injector holes there. Again, lube your O-rings very well. Oh, almost just dropped in already. Make sure those bad boys are all the way down. Holes should line up perfectly, and they do. The lower ones are for if you have a stage 2. It comes with new injectors, and the injectors are shorter, so that's what the lower bolt hole's for, but you don't need to worry about that if you have the Ford Performance Kit. Alright, so get the bolts in there with some blue Loctite. I'll have to look at the torque spec. Sorry about my fan making noise there. Torque spec is blue Loctite 243, torque spec 90 inch-pounds. Alrighty guys, I had to pull the fuel rails back off because I didn't put the harness in there. But you're not going to get this harness in there if you don't put them on the injectors first before you stick it in the intake manifold. But as you can tell, it goes, you have to run it through those little clips in some spots. Right there too, yeah. Just don't forget to put the harness on first, and just remember that the big plug goes towards the rear. It should end up right beside that barb there. Alright, so the next step is technically to install the bypass actuator, but mine is actually already installed on my supercharger. It came that way. There she is, all good to go. So you can skip that step. But if yours isn't installed, you're gonna have to go through the instructions to install it. Most of these I've seen has already had this installed, so should be good here. Then you got the supplied AN barbs and the plug. It's gonna do next. And you're gonna need the 906 O-rings. These are actually the same O-rings that you used for your fuel well barbs. You should have 3 of those left. So my plug actually already has one on it. So I got 3, but I'm only gonna use 2. Boom. So I'm gonna get those put on. There's no torque spec on those, so just good and tight. I should also add, you're going to need a 7/8 deep socket and 11/16 deep socket or wrench to get these in there. This is just a 6mm hex, or I guess quarter, could be quarter. Alrighty, so the plug is going to go in the bottom hole there, and the smaller of the 2 barbs is going to go in the top hole. The big barb is going to go here. So get your O-rings on there, lube them up, get those nice and snug, and I'll catch you the next step. Next step, we're going to be putting the O-ring in for the supercharger lid. So if your lid is bolted down, like mine was, it's just 4 bolts in the corners, not tight at all, just, you know, snug. Go ahead and rip that bad boy off. It's just sitting on there. And we'll get to installing this. So basically, this is just one big rubber gasket. You're gonna press it in starting here and work your way around until you end at the yellow. And then there's a special strip for that middle piece, so don't worry about that middle piece. Alrighty, it is going to take some work to get this gasket in here. So basically what I was talking about is you start there, leave it overhang just a hair, work it all the way in, all the way around. And then you end here. You're going to have a little excess sticking off, so just trim that off. Otherwise, as long as you got it in the groove, and it will take some work to get it down in there. Once you get it in there, it's pretty snug and it's not going nowhere. Next piece we got is the front piece, wherever I just laid it down at. Oh, here she is. You're again also gonna have a little excess, and you're gonna have to snip it off there, but it just takes some work to get it in there. All right, for this front seal here, you're just gonna want to get it as flush as you possibly can. Make sure it's all the way down again. Will take some work to get it in there. You can work it back and forth like this to make sure she's sitting all the way down. Make sure you didn't interfere with your corners and pick those up. Anyway, you have successfully, if you got to this point, you have successfully installed the seal. Now we have just this outer seal. So we're on to the next step. All right, now you're gonna need part number 3102915, lid seal O-ring. That is this guy here, and this one is gonna be, this outer one is going to be a bigger pain in the butt than this inner one for sure, because you can't have any leftover slack. On this one, if you had leftover slack, you could just cut it. This one, no. So you have to work it all the way in perfectly around all the bolt holes in this groove, all the way around. And you can't have any slack, no bolt, like no spots where it's lifting up or anything. It's got to sit in there perfectly. Alrighty guys, so this one is a pain in the butt. Don't be ashamed if you have to redo it a few times like I'm fixing to have to. It's all the way in everywhere. But if you stretch it at all going around anywhere, you're gonna have excess, and it's no bueno. So it's gotta be one continuous piece. So I'm gonna have to pull it up, start over. It's just how it goes. You gotta be patient with this sort of thing. Alrighty, the next step is to install the new map sensor they give you. It's a 3-bar map sensor with blue Loctite. I was looking everywhere for this map sensor because it's supposed to come in the kit, but apparently they installed it from the factory on mine. But I was about to go crazy. There she is. We'll just double check that it's torqued to 65 foot-pound, or not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. And then we should be able to go to the next step. Actually, my next step, it doesn't say this in the instructions, it actually tells you to do this later. Actually, it tells you to install this extension harness 115485 to the where the map sensor previously was, in the back there. I have it pulled up and out of the way, but that's it right there. Normally it would be in that area. They tell you to put this harness on, this harness, after you put the supercharger on. And I'm going to tell you, it is a pain in the butt to try to feel around. I mean, if you got this far, you know how big those push pins were to get out. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this, actually I think it's the other side, but this thing up now and lay it over to the side over here. That way when I put the supercharger down in there, I can just plug this up and I don't have to worry about fishing for it, trying to plug this extension into, you know, where you have no room back there. So that's my advice. Go ahead and plug this up now. So the Whipple instructions tell you to plug it in and zip tie it or whatever you want to do along this harness here to the back. Well, I just feel like that would be a lot in the way, and in my experience it would be in the way. So plug it up now, pull it to the side. That way when you set this down on here and bolt this thing down, you can just plug that thing right up. Next plan of attack is you're going to need part number M-9439-M50W. You're going to put it on the these are the manifold O-rings on the lower intake manifold on the Whipple down there. So they're pretty self-explanatory. You just flip this bad boy over or on its side, however you want to do it. We'll plan on trying to do it on its side because I don't want to disturb the O-rings that I just fought putting in too much. But yeah, there you go. And these can't really fall out. They have like a little, you can't really see them in the bag, but a little ribbed. You can kind of there you go. So you can't really fall out. So once you put them in, and you're good to flip it back over. Next, we're gonna fill the supercharger with oil. You want to make sure you get it on a flat surface, as flat as you can, as level as you can. It says to fill the compressor to the middle of the fill plug, 4 ounces, but that is literally all they give you anyway. So literally dump this whole bottle in there. It's 4 ounces, the whole bottle, trust me. Every drop. Obviously you don't want to overfill it, you don't want to underfill it, but that's the exact amount you need. Apply a light amount of grease to the fill plug, O-ring, reinstall, torque to 140 inch-pounds. That's what we're gonna do, right there. That's the fill plug, that's the sight glass. So you're gonna have to remove the caution supercharger shipped without oil sticker that's over the fill plug. Just remove that bad boy. That is a 8mm Allen socket, and then we'll just watch here as it fills up. And then once it does fill up, we'll turn the rotors, make sure all the bearings and everything are nice and lubricated before we actually stick it on. But here we go. All right, your fluid level should look something like that. Torque this to 140 inch-pounds. That's your fill plug, and you're good to go. We're ready for the next step. Basically, we're gonna set this thing down on here. Alrighty, now to actually mount the supercharger. This is that harness that I was telling you about that you should go ahead and plug in. So I got it pulled out of the way there. The 4 bolts in the corner is what you're gonna try to get on first. They're gonna be the biggest pain in the butt. There. Same thing on the other side. You're gonna need package WBLT Ford 003 Rev D. It's gonna come with 4 and 6. The 4 shorter bolts are the ones in the corner. These bolts are gonna use O-rings. So these 6, there you go. These 6, you're gonna put O-rings under the heads that are supplied. But for now, we're gonna get the supercharger in place and put these 4 bolts in it. So the supercharger is now sitting down on there. Now you have to get the 4 bolts in the corners in, just hand tight. Had Muscle Man here help me out, putting it in there. So it's these 4, and these are also the O-rings for the 6 bolts that go in the lid. So I'm gonna get these bad boys on there. Alrighty guys, so once you get all of these bolts in the actual base of the supercharger, the ones with the O-rings and everything, and the ones in the corners, just hand tight or just snug. You're gonna wanna put this bolt specifically through the bracket. The supercharger bracket is gonna go into the supercharger itself. And then we go through the torque sequence of all these guys. Alrighty, once you get this torque down to 22 foot-pounds, now we're gonna go through this torque sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, basically just a crisscross pattern until you get all the way to the outside. First pass, you want to do 88 inch-pounds. Second pass, you're going to do 106 inch-pounds. For number 10, they even give you a recommendation of the recommended tool here. But these back 2, I'm telling you, you're probably not going to get a torque wrench on, so you're just going to have to go by feel. Just your arm's gonna have to know 106 inch-pounds. Hope the best for you. All right, once you have all these torqued down, these in the back, I'm telling you, you're not gonna get a torque wrench on. Next thing is to install the fuel crossover pipe installed in the kit. This is what that is. There's no part number on it. But it came in the kit with the fuel rail, so that's got to be it. Anyway, we'll get that installed. All right, next step after you install the crossover tube, remember the 90 degree goes on the driver's side, which is this side. You can't see it back there, so I'm not going to try to film it for you. Then the map sensor pigtail. This is where it tells you to try to reach back there and find it and plug it in. Well, if you did it like me or like I suggested, you already have it plugged in, so all you have to do is plug in your map sensor. And so that's the next step. I'm gonna walk over here and find that thing and plug it in. Right there. It's hard to see, but there it is. Now that you have your map sensor plugged up, plug the 2 fuel injector pigtails back into the stock harness. These are the pigtails on the injectors, just the pigtails that go out the back. See if I can show you. You can't see them, but they're back there. There's one of them actually sticking up over there. Yeah, right there. Anyway, plug those bad boys back in next. Next, after you have your map sensor plugged in and your injector harnesses plugged in, you're going to grab this throttle body electrical connector or pigtail, and it's just an extension, and you're going to route it through. So basically you're going to move this from the passenger side to the driver's side is what you're doing. You're moving the location of this sensor. So you're just going to route it through the supercharger bracket there, zip tie it out of the way so it doesn't hit the supercharger pulley, and I'll get back to you on what that looks like after I'm done. Alrighty, this is your connector for your throttle body there. It literally is just got a ground there, and it wires off there. And I have it routed beside the solenoid here, going down and under this here, this bolt here, and up. There we go. I'm trying to get you that angle there. Up. You can't go through right there. I was trying to go through right there, but you really can't, and it could come out and get in the way of the belt. But anyway, so it's out and around. There she is there. And even if it's on this side, or if it's on this side, I got plenty of harness there. So ran it pretty clean. On to the next step. All right, next we're gonna get this water pump pulley put on here. It says to torque them to 14 foot-pounds, but you're not gonna be able to torque them without the belt on there. So we're gonna have to wait till we get the belts on there. So just put these on there as tight as you can get them for now. And then go ahead and get out this part number 2-230, the coolant bypass O-ring for the lid. That's what we're gonna be doing next. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this on here, and then we'll start lubing this O-ring up. All right, as you can see, got the water pump pulley. The bolts are just hand tight, but it's on there. So this is where this O-ring is going to go, right here. Generous amounts of lube. Put a lot of lube on it, because you don't want that coming off when you go to set this down on the supercharger there. All right, so I got mine in there. I'm probably going to stick a little bit more lube on it before I throw it on. But we're on to the next step, which is install the supercharger lid to the supercharger housing. By carefully placing the bypass down, secure the supercharger lid using the 17 6mm by 30 millimeters, and then 3 6x90 yeah, just torque them down using the following pattern, then 90 inch-pounds using a 10mm socket. So these three right there in the front are going to be the 3 6x90 millimeters. So we're going to need to get that out, that package of bolts. Once you got all the top lid bolts on, snug them down, then go through your torque sequence a couple times until you get to your final 90 inch-pounds, because it will kind of, squash down a little bit. Then after that, on the right hand side or passenger side, I'm actually sitting on the driver's side, but on the passenger side we can connect the right hand fuel rail fitting from the direct injection pump to the fuel rail. So we'll go ahead and do that now. All right, well, I might not be able to do it with two hands, so we'll get back at you at the next step. All right, once you get the driver's side fuel rail, fuel line, quick connect on, you'll come over here and do the same thing to the passenger side, or driver's side, I'm sorry. And then you'll also plug in the fuel pressure sensor that you unplugged in the beginning. All right, next step is to install the evap solenoid here. But first things first, they give you a new hose for that. So what I've done is I've just slit mine. You can barely see it there. Just pop it off now. You can throw this in the garbage and put this new tube on. And then we're gonna plug that up, get that routed, and I'll show you where the quick connect goes or how it routes. So, yep, let's move on. Alrighty, so now we got the evap or PC purge valve ready to go back on. So it's gonna go to that barb there, and your fitting that you took off earlier in this process. And then they give you a bracket for it, which is really similar to the Ford one. Just slide it back on there just like the Ford one, and plug it up here, and we're on to the next step. All right, next is you're gonna install your stock PCV hose, and you will have to spin this and orient it, but you can. Just be careful with it. I would recommend spinning the 90-degree side, and then it will just snap right on. From your PCV to that barb right there. So just like that. Perfect. Next up is your overflow hose from the reservoir to the 45-degree that we put in the new water neck earlier in the process. So yeah, the bigger end with the check valve, that is a check valve, the bigger end goes towards the reservoir. Smaller end goes towards the neck. All right, for your next step, you're gonna want your smooth pulley and your spacers and your 2 bolts that come in this kit, belt system parts bag, along with your smooth pulley. And we're gonna install that next. All right, so it does in fact go on this way, and that is the correct way for the orientation of everything right there. You're gonna need one of those step washers, the big one on the bottom, and then that's going to go up to your bracket here. This guy is going to go thread side up in the back of the bracket. You're just going to hold that in and thread this guy in. It's going to be a bit of a pain in the butt getting your hands in there, but yeah, and you can't torque this until you get the belt on either. So I'll get back to you once we're ready for the next step. Next step, we're going to put this grooved pulley on here with, there you go, the groove pulley, and the other washer, the identical washer to the other one, and the other identical bolt to the other that came in this pack. So that's going to go there, if you can tell, on the bracket. And it says to torque the idler pulley bolt to 30 foot-pounds. And then the next step, it says here to install the recirculating pump bracket. My truck does not have a recirculating water pump, so it even says some models are built without these pumps, so ignore this step. Some models are built without these pumps, so if so, discard this bracket. I don't need the bracket, so we're discarding that. All right, you should have the grooved pulley in at 30 foot-pounds with a 3/8 Allen socket. Now we're going to install the supercharger pulley and then the belt. So locate your pulley and your bolts, and I'll be right back with those. All right, you're going to need this package number here with the 5-bolt supercharger pulley bag, M6, 15 millimeter, 5 of them. So assuming those should be, it says 6 millimeter. No, they're actually a 5. There she is. 5 millimeter. Get them things in there. You can't torque them yet. Leave hand tight until the belt installation. So we're gonna get that on, then we'll move to the belt. Alrighty, so once you have the supercharger pulley installed, you should have these other 2 pulleys installed also. This one's 30 foot-pounds. This one you can't torque yet, and this one you can't torque yet. And the water pump bolts we still have not torqued yet. Just keep in mind, we're waiting for the belt to be on. It's a bit confusing though, so I'm gonna have to go through this, study it a little bit, get it on there, and then show you so you have an actual belt diagram. Might not be too rough going off of this, but I'm gonna get it on there, and I'll show you exactly. Remember that you want to have this one loose so you can move it up and down. Yeah, so I'm gonna get it on there and show you what it looks like. Alrighty, so putting on the belt's not too terrible. It looks worse than it actually is. So it wraps all the way around. The supercharger goes around this smooth, goes straight from the water pump all the way down to the alternator, then from the alternator around the crank on both sides, all the way around to this smooth idler here, and it comes all the way up to the ribbed idler that we added, and then that's it. and you got to pull your tensioner to its max location. We'll read the instructions and see if we have to move this or something, but either way, it's pretty tight. It looks pretty good. So now you're technically good to torque these down, and actually I think that's the next step, so I'll get back to you with that. All right, so go ahead and torque your supercharger pulley to 130 inch-pounds, and then if you haven't already, go ahead and torque your water pump bolts or water pump pulley bolts to 14 foot-pounds, and then we're moving on to the next step. Alrighty, to get your idler pulley there torqued down, you're going to have to put the tensioner at full lock open, pull downward all the way on your pulley there, and then tighten it to 18 foot-pounds. You can see there. And once you get that done, take a body panel tool or a screwdriver, preferably a body panel tool, and take these push pins out and take these shrouds out beside the radiator. You can see Mr. Ryan's already taking care of this one. A bit of a buried. One of them you're going to be reusing, the other one you're not. It says here, remove the factory radiator closeouts from both sides of the radiator. Passenger side will be reused. Driver's side will, passenger side will not be reused. Driver's side will be reused. There you go. So we'll get those off and flip the page. Well, I done wore my helper out for the day. Gave him too much he could handle, you know. But anyway, I'm still at it. Once you get these panels out, that panel, it's just a bunch of annoying push pins. I'll give you an idea how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on each one. This one is the driver's side. Goes in, boom. But it is no more. One of these is no more. I believe we're still using the driver's side, but not the passenger side. The next step, remove the stock bracket from the horns. With horns from the vehicle. Remove the horn bracket assembly from the vehicle with a 13 millimeter. So there's just a squeeze style push pin connector there, electrical connector there. Then it looks like a 10 millimeter probably. The book actually says it's 13, but it's not. It's got a little hook on it, you just pull up. Boom. So we are going to be reusing the horns, but not the bracket. So if you're a decent mechanic, always put your bolts in the spots that you're going to lose them. If you're taking them off, like for instance that air box holder there and this horn holder here, this is stuff that they didn't supply hardware for. So that one I don't even know if I'll be reusing, but I stuck it there just in case. But stuff like that, you know, keep everything in order. Alrighty, now that you got your horn assembly out of the way, we're going to actually start putting on the heat exchanger here. So what you're going to need is these 2 bags of hardware here. It's also going to come with this little piece of rubber. It's actually going to go in this slot here. You'll see what I mean. And then the new horn relocation bracket. And it's not really a relocation, I guess, but just changes it to a different angle of the dangle, if you know what I mean. So we're going to get on with installing these brackets real quick. They are labeled right, left, and as soon as I get over there to the truck, I'll go over on how these go on. I'm going to start with the left-hand side or the driver's side. You're going to need this little round guy there and this bolt. And that's how the rubber is going to go into this bracket here on the left hand side. And we're going to go over to the truck and I'll show you how it goes on. Alrighty, so this portion here, if it'll focus. Of course it won't, but you can barely see the rubber and the hook that goes over that right there. And then you're going to hook it up right there. You're gonna need, if I can get it, this guy there. We're gonna put this in here, like that. Just like that. And your bolt's gonna go through there. All right, and for the right hand side, you're gonna pull this bolt out right here for the condenser. I don't know why I'm putting it back in there, but you're gonna pull that bolt out, and then you're gonna put that J clip that's in that pack of the supplied hardware for the condenser, or not for the condenser, for the heat exchanger. Yeah, you're gonna put that there, and there's a supplied bolt for that too. And you're gonna use, I'll just show you. This J clip and bolt for that area that I was telling you about. And this is the new supplied bolt. It's just a hair longer. Anyway, we'll get that zipped in and we'll catch you at the next step. Like I said, this side is stupid easy. That J clip right there, the supplied bolt there, and that supplied longer bolt there. Yep. And now I got them in there loose so I can move the heat exchanger around if I need to. So we're gonna get that in there. You could probably just set it down on this plastic for now. It's pretty strong in the middle. So you're gonna have these little washers for your bolts. And if you can see here, so they're only gonna be on the outside of the heat exchanger, underneath the head of your bolt. But they're stepped. I don't know if you can see that. You can see it there. The stepped portion, only assuming would fit perfectly in your radiator, or not radiator, your heat exchangers. So 60 inch pounds, 89 inch pounds, 89 inch pounds, 18 foot pounds for all four of these. Next up is the horn relocation bracket. So basically, you're going to want to take these off the bracket, and you see how the hook's on this side. You're going to want to take these off and flip them and put them on this one. So you might have to orient them differently, or whatever you have to do to make this plug reach. But it doesn't really matter. They don't really necessarily have to be pointing in a certain direction, so long as they work and you can plug them in. So we're gonna get at that, and I'm gonna show you how I had to orient them to get it to plug in. So you can tell mine are just oriented in any way I can get them to clear. I got clearance here about a finger width between the plug and the heat exchanger, all the way around the horns. And you have to clock them like this or something similar to get this to reach. Because if they're pointing straight down, this will be over here and you'll never get that to reach. So yeah, they're on, they're torqued down. There's a torque spec on that, but it's not a huge deal on this. I just ran it down tight. All right, next thing you want to do is you want to pull down on this plastic piece, this first ridge here where it goes in. You want to cut down that all the way to this corner here. You can cut it flush here. And we'll cut it flush along the bottom here, and then go straight up and along this corner there. That's how I get over here. Boom. That way you have room for this hose to sneak through right here. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut that real quick, and I'll show you what it should look like. I'm just using a little That should do it. That's kind of what you want to do there. It went like that. Just cut that whole corner off, basically. Oops. Now we're actually gonna get on to installing the pump. This is not the recirculating pump I was talking about earlier. This is the pump for your heat exchanger. Yes, you are adding one. So let me get these parts out and I'll get back to you. This is going to be on the driver's side frame rail in the front. All right, so we got the pump, some hardware. You're going to need this J clip. It's going to go into the rearward most hole, around that hole, rearward most hole on the frame rail in the front on the driver's side. And I'm going to get under here and show you that real quick. Rearward most hole there. That's where it's going to go. I'll get back to you as soon as I get in there, and I'll show you how the bracket's going to mount. Alrighty, that is what you should have dangling there. The set with the 2 holes should be pointed forward to the front of the truck. And next we're going to install the actual pump itself. Alrighty, these are the bolts you're going to want to use for the clamp. Now there is no torque specs on any of this stuff, so we're just going to go good and tight. There's no torque spec on that bolt either. So again, this spigot or barb goes towards the inside of the frame rail. So just like that, I'm going to get it bolted up in there, and then we'll be on to the next step. Alrighty, that's what it should look like from the outside here. And then if you go to the inside, if you can't tell, this is how in the manual, if I can get it back over there with one hand. Yeah. Whipple tells you to put it in the truck like that, but I'm here to tell you that it's not going to work. So you're going to have to clock this thing, and this has been approved per Whipple that you can clock this thing enough to get it away from the frame rail so you can get a hose on there. So next thing you're going to do is start getting these hoses on. The first one you're going to want is the one with this 90 degree in it, or 180 I should say. And it goes down to the top of the pump there, here. Just like that, pretty self-explanatory. If you have the pump oriented, you can just get it in there perfectly. So next step you're going to want to do is we're going to be installing the reservoir for the heat exchanger. Comes with this bracket, 2 little bolts for the reservoir there, and then for the bracket you're just going to take out this factory bolt on the coolant reservoir. Stick that bad boy under there, just like that. So next we're gonna put this guy on. It goes all the way down to the front of the pump there. You can see it better there, really. Goes all the way. Boom, boom, just 2 90s. One long straight piece. We're gonna get that installed and move on to the next step. You see it hooked up down to the bottom of the pump there. Comes all the way up to the front here. Next up is the overflow tube. Goes to the top, that small barb there. Just got a 90 on it, one straight piece. Should just be able to get it to go down in there beside the other hose. Anyway, I can't do it with one hand, but we're gonna get this on and move on to the next step. Next up, you're gonna need part number 3103092. It's that guy there that goes to the bottom of the reservoir to the supercharger. So it's gonna go something like that. All right, so next plan of attack is to actually put the 3103093 on, and that's just going to go to the top of the heat exchanger to the top of the supercharger. So that's right there to there. So you're just going to snake this through that little hole right there. The 90 is actually going to be on this side, kind of like that. Yeah, we'll get that in there and move on to the next step. Alrighty, so the 90 degree in there goes through here. Got it routed nice and clean up to there. Boom. Next thing is, I believe we gotta work out this heater hose. Alrighty, this is one of the differences between the Stage 2 and the Whipple, the Ford kit. So the Ford kit, you're gonna have a throttle body adapter and a gasket. And obviously you're gonna need to take your throttle body off of your factory intake manifold. You're also gonna need that gasket because they do not supply a new O-ring. But if your truck is low mileage, it shouldn't matter. So we're gonna go ahead and get that on there. And we also have to deal with that hose there. If you have the Stage 2 kit and you go ahead and put your throttle body on here, you're not gonna be able to get that barb on there. So with the Ford kit, it's not a big deal. You should still be able to get that on there, but we're gonna go ahead and get the adapter on here, and then I'll throw the throttle body on here and hook that hose up, which is right there. So you're gonna need this package of bolts here. They're Allen's. And then you're gonna need the factory bolts that are actually gonna do the same thing and bolt into your bracket there. All right, so I'm gonna get this over to the truck and I'll be back at you with the next step. We're gonna stick the throttle body on there. You should have your adapter on there. Torque those bolts to 89 inch-pounds. And it doesn't say for these, so I'm gonna also torque these to 89 inch-pounds. And do not forget to swap over your gasket from your intake manifold, because you're gonna need it. Alrighty, you for performance guys, Stage 1 guys, it is a pain in the butt to get that O-ring on there into the supercharger and it stay there while you're trying to put the throttle body in there. It took me like an hour, but anyway, it's in there. Next thing you can do is this extension that we ran for the throttle body, and now come up, boom, up and out of the way. Next thing is this hose here. Ford actually gives you this hose here in a straight barb. For the Stage 2 you get a 90 degree barb, but I don't think I need to use this at all with the Stage 1, as long as it stays out of the way of the belt. Alright, this guy. Oh yeah, it's not pushed down all the way, but it'll definitely clear everything. So you Stage 1 guys, you do not have to replace that hose. It'll just go right back down in the factory location. Alright, next up is the air box. Already got the base in. It is a pain in the butt to get in. You're gonna have to take this loose and possibly some of that mess there. I was able to get it in without loosening that stuff up too much, but it still is going to be a pain in the butt to get that back on. Now it's the intake tube. That must just be a air return fitting hose that goes into the intake there, intake tube. Yep, So now it says install the supplied barb into the 1/2-inch rubber grommet. Install the 1/2-inch rubber grommet into the quick connect fitting. And there she is. Alright, so there you go. That's what it should look like. All installed in there. So you can see it, but there she goes. Now we're going to get this bad boy on, along with the supplied rubbers and clamps. Yep, we're going to get that on. Alrighty, so once you get the air box in there, I suggest you put this piece in one piece. Don't take it apart like it shows here. Because if you mess with these brass knurled inserts in there, they just pull out. You can't even torque them down. So, and you'll break them. So try to put this in one piece, and then fight with this tube here. And once you get the air box all the way in, my boy here is tightening down all the clamps. Then you want to put in your air makeup tube, your factory one. And you can turn these and orient these 90 degrees however you want to make that fit. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and install this tube now. There, all the way back to there. Alrighty, once you got that hooked up, this is what it should look like. Goes all the way back to there. Boom. On to the next step, which is starting off with the wiring for the pump for the supercharger. So we're gonna have to take up this. I'm gonna have to get my second hand in here to get this push pin out, but yeah, we're gonna take off this and this cover here, and they're just held on like that. So again, I'm gonna have to get a second hand in here. I can't do it with one hand, but that's the story of my life. Alrighty guys, next up, obviously I already told you we're gonna move on to the wiring, but once you get these covers off, the bigger one in the corner, you're literally just going to take out that, literally just the corner in there, so you can fit a wire through there. So I'm going to get that done, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Just like that, voila. It's not completely straight, but as long as you got a big enough hole and you don't lay your wire on it, let it chamfer, you'll be all right. So you could even take some sandpaper in there and clean that up a little bit, and I might, but anyway, that piece is done. On to the next one. So you're going to need this bundle of wires here with this relay and this push pin. This push pin, you're actually going to let's see, where does it show it at? Here, down here, there's a push pin hole in the battery box right below the battery, and that's where you're going to stick that relay. And then route the power and ground up towards the fuse box. So that's where I'm at now, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, you can see I got mine rotated to the side. But there's the push pin in the location. Route your power and ground up towards the fuse box. I'm gonna route my ground over here to one of these two, probably that one down there, make it look clean. This one up here, they give you so much wire, you're not really gonna be able to make the power look clean, but there is a big jumble of wires already over here from the factory. So you're gonna go to the one in the corner there. Point to it right there. Yeah, that's what we're gonna go to. All right, get those hooked up, and we'll catch you with the next step. Alrighty guys, so definitely ignore this step 110. F23 is not the correct fuse at all. You're gonna need F49. So this isn't even the correct diagram for a 24 plus. So this I guess is for a 21 to 23. The 24 has a different fuse location. And that's where you're gonna put this tiny little red wire with the fuse sticking out of it. I'll pull it out real quick so you can see which fuse it is. So you're gonna have a 5, a 30, and that empty slot that I have this in, it was a 5. So you're just gonna stick that bad boy in there. Boom, down like that. All the way down. And then you're gonna follow where it has it cut out there. It's gonna go out the corner there where you have the box cut. Just like that. All right, now you can install your covers back in here, and then we'll get on to the next step. Alrighty, once you get all that hooked up, you can put your covers back on here. And this wire, it looks like it's pinched in there, but I can't grab it. It's not. That comes out your little corner hole that you've cut, and I've just laid mine in between there. Just like that. And then now, the only other wire we should have coming off of this thing is this sensor plug for something. I'm not sure what that goes to yet. And this wire goes all the way down to the pump. So I'm gonna figure out what that one is, and then we're gonna route this down. I'm gonna go down the K member there, along some other wires, and down to the pump. And it just goes into that electrical connector there on the pump that you've already installed. Alrighty, so now that you got all that routed and everything, I have my you can see that wiggling down there, but I still got a couple zip ties to do, but I got it going down the K member all the way around down to the pump. Down there, you can see the wire coming out right there. Try to keep it out of the belt, and try to keep it out of the oil tray down there in front of the oil filter. Alrighty, now that you got that all squared away, time to start filling it up full of coolant. Yep, got all the wiring's done. Refill the engine coolant, verify that your coolant drain is closed. I closed mine as soon as it was done draining. Use a filter or strainer to pour the recycled coolant mixture back into the radiator. I'm using brand new, so I don't have to worry about trying to pour it out of a bucket. Whipple also recommends running 2 bottles of Redline water wetter, which I do have. There. 2 bottles. One's going to go in the reservoir for the Supercharger. One of them is going to go into the actual coolant reservoir. So that's that. We'll get that filled up, and I'll get back to you with the next step. Next step, after you got coolant in your reservoir, next step is to put the negative terminal back on the battery, and then plug back up your fuel pump driver module if you haven't already. We'll crawl under there and do that real quick, but do not forget to do that or your truck will not start. Next thing, we're gonna fill the Supercharger up. Oh, shit. So folded. Then once we get this filled up, we're gonna cycle the key on, not running, on. Remember, we don't have our tune on here yet, so we can get this pump running and get the air, purge the air out of the system. Don't forget to add your water wetter to this. Alrighty, once you get all the air purged out of the system, you're gonna have to cycle the key on and off several times while you run out and fill this thing up. And it also says several drive cycles may be required to completely purge the air from the intercooler system. Yeah, you can go ahead and install the radiator shroud with plastic push pins, reinstall the grill, install supplied emissions and maintenance schedule decals. It comes with the 91 octane only and the 5W50 sticker. Alright, now's the time to add this shroud back. You're going to remove this push pin that you can't use anymore because the bolt's there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 up here. So that's going to be back into place. Then we can throw the whole grill and lower filler panel back on just like you took it off. So the grill's going to go on first next. Alright, while you're doing that, while you're installing the grill, you can be draining the oil because you are going to have to switch to 5W50 and an FL 500. So yeah, I'm going to get this oil draining while we're putting on the grill. Alrighty, so I got the oil drained. I'm going to fill it up with 5W50. I got AMSOIL. Ford also does make the 5W50 for the Shelby cars. That's what they recommend. But I get a good deal through AMSOIL, and I like AMSOIL, so I'm going to use that. Also got an AMSOIL filter, the equivalent of a FL 500. I'm about to dump that in there and move on. Alrighty, you should have the grill on, the upper shroud on, and the lower valence there. Again, it's just the 2 bolts. Put it on there, and same thing on the other side. Just gotta download the tune now. So I'll get back with you after that tune is downloaded. It's hard to film all this with one hand and do this. But basically there's an instruction manual on how to do that too. So I had a little mishap, had a check engine light and realized that I forgot to plug up the number 2 coil pack for whatever reason. Luckily it was one of the easy ones to get to. But I started it up and it seemed to run okay, but it was a little shaky. I just thought, maybe the Supercharger's adding a little pizzazz, a little torque, So I took it down the road and I knew instantly I had a misfire or something. So came back to the house, figured out it was the number 2 coil pack, plugged it in, and now it sounds totally different than probably what you heard before. She's happy now. Just like that, guys, she's all done and buttoned up. Got the coolant a little over full, but hey, happens. Everything's like it's supposed to be, runs great. Got it up to temp already. No issues, no leaks. Just go through and check all your connections. Belt looks like it's doing good. Oh yeah. So we're all good. Job done.